Secretary, it looks likely that the president has enough votes to sustain his veto, so the deal will stand. What does John Kerry need to accomplish when he speaks in Philadelphia today?
I think he has to give one final pitch to solidify the rest of the Democrats who are still outstanding. I think there are some 10 or 11 Democrats who have yet to commit, and if he can get them to commit, that would mean the Democrats could run a filibuster so that the Republican effort to negate this entire negotiation would fail. And so that would be a double victory for the president. So I think he's going to talk about the need to get more on board to support the president if there should be a veto, and then to see if he can get enough to actually prevent a passage of a resolution disavowing the agreement itself. I think that's his main goal. Then secondly, he's going to have to make an argument that the Republicans have indicated, even if they lose on this particular effort, they're going to start immediately imposing sanctions, unilateral sanctions, upon Iran, which Iran might take as a reason to break the agreement itself. And so the question would be, what will happen then? The rest of the international community is not putting sanctions back on. It'll be a unilateral effort by the United States, and it'll put Iran on a faster track than the 15 years they're currently going to be on. It'll be a 15-month track, perhaps.
Secretary, what is the thing that this White House can do to repair its relationship with Israel, if that's the next step?
Well, it's not just Israel. It is repairing its relationship with the United Arab Emirates that has been strained, with the Saudis that has been strained, with Oman, with Qatar, and with Israel. I think all of the countries in the region are fearful. And so what has to happen, the United States has to have a package of systems and intelligence capabilities that will beef up the local capability and make them more resilient and robust against what is anticipated will be a continuation of the destabilizing activities of the Iranians. So it's going to be arms packages, it's going to be commitments, it's going to try to solidify the GCC states into a really functioning regional power that can, in fact, contest.
You are very good, Mr. Secretary, at straddling the political debate of this United States of America. Vice President Cheney would suggest we are near an arms race in the Middle East. Is that the unintended consequence of this Iranian deal, that we end up with an arms race between UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and you name the other parties?
Well, that's one of the potential offsets of this particular agreement, that the other countries don't trust Iran. We don't trust Iran. That's the reason for the intrusive inspections, to see whether or not we can, in fact, monitor them so in a way they can't cheat. But if they're going to cheat, that will get out. The other countries will then start to modernize their own capabilities, and that means gaining a nuclear capability, whether they buy it from Pakistan or North Korea.
Yeah.
And that's the danger. That's the danger that's involved.
Part of this, Mr. Secretary, is the pageantry that we see in China over the next few days. I am stunned at the lineup assisting the Chinese in their celebration. Venezuela, North Korea, Russia, Sudan, and I would like to think there's some other parties as well. How large is the Chinese military might and its projection across the Pacific?
At this point, it is a growing regional power. It does not have a blue water navy at this point that can, in fact, sail to various parts of the globe and affect action on the water or in the air at land. So they will develop into a blue water navy and will have a global presence. That's something that we have to anticipate and find ways in which we can try to manage its impact with countries that don't wish to be dominated.
Are we budgeting the U.S. Navy now at an appropriate level given the perceived threat of China?
we are not budgeting the level of spending not only for China, but for the effective use of our military. It's down to one of the lowest levels in recent history. It is going to have a major impact on morale. If we have to ground planes because we can't fly them, the pilots can't train and therefore would not be, quote, ready if the commander-in-chief called them into action. And so we've had some serious problems that have been inflicted already under the hammer of sequestration. And so to the extent that those policies are continued, we're going to really start deteriorating and drop to a second level of capability over a period of some 10 or 15 years unless we reverse it.
Secretary, this discussion has turned to the capabilities of a blue water Navy. I know that makes a lot of admirals happy about their budgets coming up. What is the significance of the carrier killer missile that China is parading this week in Beijing?
Well, the carriers do present a challenge in terms of their defense. They are floating islands. They can be targeted. There are more and more sophisticated missiles that are being developed, air-to-sea missiles that are going to be very hard to stop. But once that happens, once the Chinese or anyone else were to fire and take down a ship, you're in a state of war. So the question is, would China run the risk of going to all-out war with the United States by taking on and sinking one of our ships? That's a question that the Chinese will obviously want to take into account before they make such a step, because at this point we still have overwhelming superiority in our nuclear and conventional capabilities.
Sure. Briefly, Secretary, assuming the President does get the 34 votes needed, who is best placed in the next administration to continue on this kind of new relationship with Iran?
Well, I think the next administration, whoever is in that position as commander-in-chief, is going to have to walk very tenderly to say that I know I made this promise that I'm going to tear this thing apart. But then he's going to look around and talk to his so-called allies and say, well, Mr. President, if you do that, you're on your own. We're not imposing any more sanctions. In fact, we're quite happy doing a lot of business with Iran. And so if you take action, it'll be on your own, and you will have to live with the consequences because it won't be with us.
So this deal stays even into the next administration?
I think the next administration is going to be very hard to pull this down. Okay. Once it gets put into effect, I think it'll be very difficult to take down.
What is the value, Secretary, of just resuming any kind of diplomatic relationship with Iran?
I think the Iranians would say, we've negotiated. A deal is a deal. Don't expect us to go back. Now that you don't like the deal, you want to go back and renegotiate it. We're not interested. And if you want to go back and do the deal, be our guest. We're not with you. The British aren't with you. The Germans aren't with you. The EU is not with you. Russia, China, they're not with you. So if you want to go back and renegotiate it, be on your own. But understand these other countries are going to be supplying weapons, money, and infrastructure building in our country. And so you'll have to consider that if you want to take any unilateral action.
Secretary Cohen, thank you for the briefing this morning. The former Secretary of the Defense.